Thank you so much for joining the Dr. Whisperer podcast show. I am your host, Sharon Feckety, and you are here to listen to others talk about the business of medicine. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody else that is in the business of medicine so we can all learn together. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things business of medicine. And today I'm very excited because this will be a first since 2018, starting this podcast, that we are talking about PR for doctors and who can do PR well for them. So I have brought you Lisa Simone Richards, who it does publicity for physicians. So welcome to the show, Lisa. Thanks for being here.
Oh, Sharon, so excited to be here and love that we get to scratch the surface of this topic and just open up some new possibility for the listeners.
Yes. So doctors are really great guests on TV shows. I was just with one in Tampa not too long ago for a national show. Really is a great way of getting the word out, a smart way to spend marketing dollars. But why don't you, Lisa, tell everybody, because I've done PR, like I mentioned to you, for doctors in the past. It's not my bag, Lisa, like everybody has their strengths, and I wouldn't say that's where I want to focus my energies, but I do know how important it is. I do know how great it can be when there's that third-party credibility for these physicians to be interviewed and talk instead of selling, but talking about all of that knowledge and all that money they spent in medical school. It's certainly going to good use when they're on television and the like. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started into the business, Lisa?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we can roll it back real quickly. I first learned about PR when I was 18, my first year at university, and I was having lunch with someone who was in fourth year. Her name is Lindsay. And she told me after Western, the school we went to, she would be going to PR school. And this is 2002. Sex and the City was huge. Samantha Jones had her own PR agency, and she was living a fun life, fashion, beauty, parties, restaurants, exclusivity. And I was like, that is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So from that day forward, everything was PR. From there, I got my start in the fashion and beauty industry, transitioned into working for an agency where I was supporting clients like Staples, Virgin Mobile, got to meet Richard Branson, Crayola, and other huge corporations like that. Nice. Really fell in love with health, fitness, and wellness in 2009. I ended up working for a boot camp company here in Canada, and we grew from 40 to over 100 locations in Canada, taking the revenue from 400,000 to 4 million, and ended up becoming a personal trainer along the way. So that was where we started getting interested in the health, fitness, and wellness arena. And fast forward to 2015, when I started my own business, my first clients were identical twin chiropractors. And we were able to get them such incredible coverage on national television, local television, radio, magazines. They ended up having a column for a year, and seeing what that was able to do for their brand and their business. I was like, you know what, there's so many people in this industry who are incredible at what they do, but they're also maybe not the best marketers. And to be the best kept secret is just not going to help anyone. So I love making it my mission to share with people, hey, here's how you get featured so that people know who you are. Or if I'm doing it on their behalf, helping them get that message out there.
Yeah, I love it. And to me, this is everything. For myself, I've put myself on television, local news, HSN, national, and then you have all of these great clips that you could repurpose forever on social media. So why don't you, because I think, I know that there's not a lot of value, say, put on what happens. People don't understand how much work it takes to do PR. And it does provide so much value for clients. But what is it, and what is it about your company that actually gets these doctors on these national and local, because I think local is great, especially if they're looking for patients to come in the door, on these national sets Or
I just have to say, I could not agree with you more. I had those identical twins I mentioned just now. They became guest expert regulars on a television show here in Canada called The Social. Think of it as the equivalent of The View. And they did multiple guest features because they were leaving their practice to be on TV. The show ended up paying them, which was fantastic. But getting on national television didn't necessarily help grow their practice. When they got on the local TV show that was volunteer run, far less sexy, but the people who were around the corner who could walk into their door saw it, that was a game changer. So it's so incredible to be aware of what the purpose of getting visibility is, because it's really cool to be on Oprah, but if you're only serving people around the corner, it's not necessarily going to do the right job. But the question you asked me was, where do we kind of differentiate ourselves in terms of supporting physicians? And I think one area where we really shine is helping with messaging. Something that I found within the medical community is that y'all are real smart. There's so much clinical knowledge. There's so much detailed understanding that these physicians want to share with their clients, with patients, with the audiences. But there's also a way to make it digestible. I think about, I'm going to my dentist tomorrow and she's going to go into the details on my bicuspids and this and that. And I'm like, just need clean teeth. Appreciate all the detail you're going into, but that's just where I cut off. So one fun experience with these twins was roll it back to 2015 when we all just started to get front-facing cameras. And they had shared with me, Lisa, we would love to do a story and pitch about elbow and wrist alignment, because now that everyone's, turning their elbow and wrist in all the time, that's having an impact. And then I had to be the bearer of bad news. I'm like, guys, I love you and I get it, but that is, if I heard that elbow and wrist alignment coming up next at 6 p.m., that's when you change channels or get a snack, because it's just not interesting. However, when we observed that Kim Kardashian, who the twins have never worked with, and that doesn't matter, she went to the UK that week and took 1,500 selfies. So we were able to take the message that they actually wanted to use, piggyback it onto something that was pop culture, newsworthy, people were talking about, and then be able to ride off of that to be able to make it newsworthy. And that turned into national morning news, local radio, article in a national magazine. So being able to take this brilliance, but then package it into something that's relatable to the average consumer and to the producer who's even making the decision on whether or not to highlight this individual in their story in the first place. That's the part where I think the medical community, where it's really fun to support the medical community.
Yeah, well, isn't that the truth? I mean, if there is a hot story and you can utilize your services to match that hot story that is making national news, that is absolutely something that works. Now, what I've seen an epic fail with physicians trying to pitch themselves is that they'll just send out a PR news release. And, if what I've tried to tell my clients is that you have to put yourself in the position of the producer. All they're doing is getting pitched all day long, right? So if you're going to send a snooze fest, they're not going to read it. And you should put something in the subject line. What are some of the tips that we can give them of how to pitch themselves? Obviously, they should be hiring you, Lisa. We know this.
Thank you, Sharon.
Maybe some little tips of what they can do besides, because that makes sense to me. You say it's yes, Kardashian selfies, boom. But they're but you don't understand, Sharon. Everybody needs to know about this product that I have. And I say to them, nobody gives a shit, actually, about your product.
Absolutely love that. And this is perfect because I had a conversation with a doctor yesterday who had taken one of my courses and someone on her team had gone through it. And she was saying to me, Lisa, we've gone through the program. We've sent all these pitches. We haven't gotten any responses. So do you mind taking a look at this? And I was I looked at it and okay, we got some good points here, and we also have some opportunities. So let's speak into that. One of the first things that I come across, and this is something I learned in that PR school that I mentioned earlier that I went to, I think probably within the first 3 months of being there, a teacher said to our class, and I remember this because I was that's real rude. We all paid a lot of money to be here. But she said to us, nobody cares about your business or brand as much as you do. And that was just such an important lesson to learn. So many people lead with I, me, my, and they don't realize that the person on the other end, they're tuned into WIIFM. What's in it for me? So just even as I was going through this person's pitch yesterday, I was challenging them. Circle how many times the letter I is in here, or you're, referring to yourself, not just like the letter. And then underline how many times you is in here. Now, you said I maybe about 20 times, and you've reflected on the audience, the listeners, the people who are going to be consuming this maybe 3 times, if so many. Mm-hmm. So to be able to take your content and make it what I call you-facing versus I-facing, that's the first thing that's going to even hook somebody and keep their attention to go through your content. So thinking about what is in it for the person on the other side consuming the content, not I have a message that I really want to get out there. I'm going to like pitch it till people are blue in the face and hope someone's going to say yes to it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that there's something to be said about the value of rejection. If people are not responding or you're getting a no, that doesn't mean that you don't pitch them again, or try a different spin on it. There's a lot to be said about the creative versus your pitch, just like you mentioned, going through it and saying, you really need to think about what the audience feels, because they don't care about what you think. Of course, you think it's great. Otherwise, you would have never gone into this business and started selling this product.
Are you still running your medical practice like it's 1990? Well, what about Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants? A medical virtual assistant, I promise you, is the way to run your medical practice today. Why? Because you can save, thousands of dollars. No more paying for health insurance, no more worrying about office space. You also have trained professionals. These wonderful human beings get trained, and they have a client service manager that makes sure that your VA that you're working with for your practice is hitting all the goals that you need to make sure that your practice is run efficiently and friendly. Check out Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants today.
Are you tired of the one-on-one grind? You want to break free from the brick and mortar practice and work from anywhere? Ready to impact more lives, work less, all while making more money? Sound too good to be true? It's not. You can actually learn how to do all of this and more at the first annual In This Together live event that's happening in Orlando, Florida on February 20th to the 22nd, 2023. Join your host, Dr. Kylie Burton, and other world-class speakers for an event unlike any other you've attended. And it's for practitioners only. These tickets will sell out, so grab yours quickly. We will provide the link to this event in the show notes. Click. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the benefits of having this third-party credibility for practices. Because I myself work with a lot of doctors that have broken out of corporate, that no longer are, taking the insurance card, their cash practice, which means, they have to do a lot more work in the PR and the marketing sector to get the word out there. So what are some of the tips that we can give them to get that party started? Again, like Lisa, they should be hiring you. I don't doubt that for one moment, but what else could we tell them to do?
Yeah, there's such a huge difference between saying, hey, look at me, I'm great, versus somebody else saying, hey, look at her, she's great. Mm-hmm. So I love that you're touching on the third-party endorsement. And I feel like I'm going to keep bringing up the twins because my knee's out and I've been seeing them lately. So we're going to keep going back to that story. But one of the things that really helped them get their names out there to help establish them as not just any doctor, but as the doctors that people are willing to choose. Number one, having those as seen on logos on your website above the fold. We have to remember that our clients have an option. They could go to you, somebody else, like they're not lacking. So to be able to have a differentiator that automatically creates that psychological shift, that it's not just, not just any doctor. I mean, goodness sakes, you're a doctor, that's huge. But to really be able to stand out and say, oh, this person's been featured on Fox, ABC, NBC, that automatically elevates the way that they're viewing you. And then also keeping in mind, if you're a cash practice and that's how you're charging, being positioned as premium also allows you to charge premium because, someone's probably going to pay more to see Tony Robbins than they would to see the average life coach. Not probably, of course they would. Mm-hmm. So to be able to position yourself in the same way is absolutely huge. And there's one other thing that I think a lot of doctors are sleeping on that's going to help really solidify and position them as an authority. Most people who are listening to this, I'm guessing, probably have brick and mortar practices. Mm-hmm. And in communities, local newspapers have awards. best fitness studio, best restaurant, best doctor, best chiropractor. A lot of people sleep on applying for those awards. I'm not saying you're not the best because you genuinely deserve it, but applying for those kind of awards, it's a lot easier to win than you think. I think the twins have won every single year since 2015 for best chiropractor in Toronto. And that, just having that on your door, on your signage alone, to be able to put that on your marketing materials, voted #1, we're the best. How do you think that makes people see you? And then are they willing to even spend a little bit more because you're voted #1? I know when I go to the grocery store and we're all talking about inflation these days, like there's a generic ketchup, but then there's the Heinz. And like, I'm not trying to save like 40 cents on the crappy stuff. I will pay for the better one. So think about how can you be positioning yourself as a practitioner in the same way.
What do you think about doctors being featured on podcast shows, Lisa?
So here's the thing, and it depends, especially because as brick and mortar, what's the intention? Because podcasts are generally going to be listened to regardless of geographic location. So it's cool if somebody a few states over hears it, but they're not going to walk into your practice. For people who have bricks and mortar businesses, I really suggest local radio. Far less sexy than it used to be, but most large cities are going to have some sort of talk news station where there's news repeating over and over throughout the day. Get an interview on one of those stations, it's going to play 5-6 times throughout the day. Someone who's commuting is going to hear that. That's going to stretch you way farther than a podcast episode. However, if you said to me, I'm someone who's promoting a book and I want to speak on stages, my strategy would shift for you. For bricks and mortars, again, local newspapers, those are the people who are reading about you, and local television. Like I shared at the beginning, the twins got on national TV, national morning news. And that's not what put dollars in their bank account. It was the less sexy local TV show run by volunteers.
So how did they do it? Did they take your course or did they hire you to get that publicity for them?
Yeah, so back when I started working with them, I was very much in the stage of running my agency. So that's where I was doing it on their behalf. And to this day, I have the agency where I do it on people's behalf. We really focus on VIP days because I know doctors are looking for something a little more intensive. They don't want to meet with me every week per se. And I also do have courses on the back end that teach people how to do this themselves. One of my favorite success stories is thinking about a nutritionist named Jessie Lane Lee. Go ahead, Google her, go on her media page. You can see what she did on her own, but be able to see that she's been on well over 30, 50 television segments, that she's still booking them herself to this day because I taught her how to be able to do it. That's honestly more fun for me.
So teaching them how to do it versus you doing it yourself, and do you, because I mean, I have told a lot of the doctors that I've worked with myself is gaining relationships with these journalists, with these reporters, because so many of them are overwhelmed with all of the pitches that they get. So how do we get them on the local news? How do we get them in the local paper? What do you suggest for them to do besides taking your course? Because I do think it is well worth your while, especially if you're going to be in your own business and your own practice, to learn how to do this so you set yourself up for the rest of your practice.
So here's a really fun part. I think people would believe I have the most incredible relationships, and I have a few good ones, some tight ones. I think about my wedding last year and some of the editors who were there. Those were strategic relationships built 10 years ago that still exist today. But a lot of clients I'm pitching, I have no relationships with the station. It really comes down to having a good idea that's relevant in timely. Sorry, that was the word we were going for. It's between newsworthy and timely. So having something that's relevant to right now, that's the thing that's going to be the difference between, yes, we need to feature that, versus that's a good idea, we can come back to that later. So really it's all about figuring out where's the right place to be seen, who do I need to know, and how do I come up with a compelling idea that they're going to say yes to in a timely fashion.
Yes.
If I could even speak into one thing, not doing a shameless plug here, but one thing that I find really supportive for medical.
Go ahead and shamelessly plug. I'm not mad about that.
I think it's great when you can think about the longevity of the investment. When people are hiring me on a monthly retainer, it's $3,500 plus per month. However, if you can buy a course and a VIP day where I'm going to do strategy for you, and I give my clients the actual course that their team members can do, someone on your marketing staff can go through it. And now they have a skill that they can use use over and over and over again. Just bring me in for strategy once a quarter, and then have somebody who already is on your payroll doing it for you. You want to pay me every month? I will take it, please and thank you. But really efficiently at the long-term life cycle of your business, when I say I have clients who I taught this in 2015 that are still doing it 8 years later, learn it, have someone on your team take it. If they leave one day, you still have the program access, have the next person take it. So I think long-term strategy, that's the way to go. I have built my business really on my passion for teaching people and sharing with a person how to fish, so to speak. And hey, I'm happy to do it too, but it's so rewarding to see people do it on their own.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I like nothing more than to just tell somebody how to do something versus paying me triple the amount and walking them through hand in hand, because it really is very time consuming to get the doctors on television. So here's one thing I'm going to throw at you.
Sure.
I have a lot of doctors that ask me if they should wear their white lab coat. I just want to see what you have to say about that, Lisa.
I'm going to go with no.
Thank you.
That is literally my inherent response. When I think about what branding and marketing looked like years ago, like people, have to have the fancy brand. Like as it stands today, people want to do business with people, and you're a person. So allow them to connect to you. I think it's really fun when my mom will tell me about medical appointments she's gone to, and she's like, these doctors are all your age or younger. Like they're so casual. He was in jeans. I'd never know he was a doctor. But like, it also brings people's guards down. You want to be relatable and not perceived as talking down to them. So no, I would not recommend a white lab coat.
Yeah. And also doctors, they're going to have your name on the screen. It'll actually say Dr. John Smith right there. So people will know that you are a physician. I'm against the white coat. I think that it does separate us from having that connection that you were mentioning before. All right. So
thank goodness we passed that test.
Yeah, no, really. Like I am no to the white coat. I've been asked that so many times. Should I put a stethoscope on? Again, you're not seeing a patient. You're talking to a reporter or a journalist. They know you're a doctor, and so does the audience. So we really should. And it's such a different time now. It's 2023. We all need to be a little bit more relatable and a little more, humble. I love going to see a doctor, and there's no evidence of them being one except the brain that they're using to help me get better. So Lisa, are there any more tips that you could give out to our audience, or just what do you offer? Tell us a little bit about these courses that you have online that are so valuable.
Yeah, I have 3 different programs that exist right now. There's the Get Clients from Podcasting, which is not for you if you're listening to this podcast, as you know, typically if you have a bricks and mortar. There is a course called 2 Weeks to TV. I will absolutely pat myself on the shoulder and say I have a wicked track record for getting people from never having been on television before to their first segment in 30 days. Lots of people who've done that program have achieved that. I should really get a stat on it because it would be significant. So we've got that program that someone on your team could go through. And then finally, there's the Online Visibility Accelerator Lite. That is the full shebang of 20 years of knowledge packed into that course. It teaches you everything from stages to magazines to newspapers to how to write a pitch, how to follow up. It gives you all the templates, the formulas. It just packs everything in there. So that's me distilling everything I had into one area. And then for people who are interested in, who are thinking, I don't want to learn anything, just get it done, please. A way that I work with people is through VIP days. I know you're busy running a practice. You don't want to spend every week thinking about your PR and visibility. So we think about, what does your next quarter look like? What are the goals? What are the stories that'll make sense for you? Where do we pitch them? We build a media list. We write the pitches. Someone on your team schedules them to go out the door. And at the end of the VIP day, there's no more work to be done. You're set for your pitching for the rest of the quarter.
I love it. I think it is well worth it, Doc. So if you really want to explode your practice in 2023 and beyond, you absolutely have to have PR. And Lisa, you sound like you really know what you're doing. There's not too many in the industry that work specifically with doctors. And I think that that's a real advantage. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Sharon. This was a really fun conversation to have with you. And I hope that it's opened up possibility for people who are listening to this. It's not just for people who can afford a high fancy publicist. Like, it's actually really more accessible than you think to get the publicity that you want to reach the right people.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here today, Lisa.
So if you want to party like it's 1999, but run your medical practice like it's 2022, don't forget to check out Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants.
Don't forget to grab your tickets to the first annual In This Together live event in Orlando, Florida, happening on February 20th to the 22nd, 2023, with your host, Dr. Kylie Burton. Grab your tickets now, link in show notes.